This is Live from My Office. Hi, I'm Steve Cochran. I host Live from My Office, thus the title. Glad you're here. Hope you tell a few friends, and then I hope they tell a few more as we continue to grow Live from My Office. I really appreciate your support wherever you listen. Please subscribe, rate, and review. You'll never miss an episode, and you'll help us really grow this thing into something, say, similar in size to Amazon or Google. And I'm hoping for that by the end of the month, so let's get it done. On today's episode, Dr. Kevin Most returns. He has incredibly good news, which frankly I didn't see coming as far as a timeline goes for how much longer we'll be locked down. But here's the hook. We still have to be grown-ups in the interim for a few more weeks, and not many more weeks, because even dopey spring breakers can't stop us from getting beyond COVID now. I'll be getting my second COVID shot soon. I hope you are on that track as well. We'll also talk to Dr. Most about the vaccine hesitancy crowd and why that isn't going to be something that helps anybody, including those who are hesitant about getting the vaccines. So before we go any further, though, let me tell you about something all related to this and a real-world example of how stupid can be expensive. A Louisiana tourist complained that he paid $15,000 for a Disney World vacation that was disrupted because he got arrested. Why did he get arrested? Seems he refused to get his temperature checked at Disney Springs. That's one of the properties within the Disney complex, all according to video footage. His name's Kelly Sills. He's 47. He pled not guilty to a charge of trespassing. Following the incident, authorities confronted him outside the Boathouse restaurant. Sills had skipped the temperature screening tent. He refused to go back and then wouldn't leave the property when Disney folks approached him, and the sheriff's office approached him as well. As deputies took Sills away, Sills had a change of heart and said he was willing to get his temperature checked now. He said, will you take me to get my temperature checked before you kick me out, please? As he was led away, handcuffed, according to deputies' body camera footage. And the deputy said, we'll do that in jail, sir. Sills' attorney declined to comment on the case. Sills was amongst a handful of men who were arrested earlier this year for tirades after they refused to allow Disney's strict rules during the coronavirus pandemic. So in other words, genius, you spent $15,000 on a Disney trip. Now, Disney is very expensive, but I don't know how you got to $15,000 unless you're bringing most of Louisiana with you. But in the meantime, that's not the point. The point is it's a simple temperature check. And when you were told it was private property, another official said, you're officially being trespassed. He said, I spent $15,000. The sheriff said all you had to do was get your temperature check. That's it. Sills asked someone who was with him to video his arrest, but it was already captured on film by body cameras. He said, and I quote, I paid $15,000. You can't trespass me for paying $15,000. He soon began cooperating with the sheriff's deputies. If I take $15,000 from you, I can't kick you out. Bring me to jail for $15,000. I'm fine. In front of my kids, too, at Disney World. It's all your fault, you dope. Just get the temperature check. You're not better than anybody else. Everybody has to do it. And that's the lingering message. Is it really a big deal to lean forward and have somebody click a temperature screen at your forehead? Is that a big deal to you? Yeah, $15,000. Apparently we now know the price of stupidity. It's $15,000. All right, so there's your little anecdote backing up a lot of what the conversation with Dr. Most will be about. And we'll do that after the break. All of it, as always, is sponsored by David Hochberg and Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. This is Steve Cochran, and you're listening to Live from My Office. If you're purchasing a new home or refinancing your existing home, do what I've done, what my daughter has done on multiple occasions, what my sister's done. It's Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. All David Hochberg wants to do is save you money. But he'd like to thank you for allowing Team Hochberg to help you, your friends, your family, your coworkers. With a mortgage in the past year, Team Hochberg funded over $355 million in refinance transactions, which help listeners secure lower rates, shorten the term of their loans, and pay off debt. Save listeners over $275,000 a month. Team Hochberg also helped listeners purchase over $88 million worth of new homes last year. Second homes, too, and investment properties. Look, when the pandemic hit, Team Hochberg helped listeners understand the importance of and explained how to take advantage of forbearance to save their homes. Forbearance? I thought it involved four bears. I didn't even know. Team Hochberg helped me and thousands of my podcast listeners, and they would greatly appreciate the chance to help you secure a mortgage in this coming year. I mean, throughout the rest of 2021, because the sun came up, baby. Things are looking better. 855-56-DAVID, 56david.com. And we remind you, tune into Home Sweet Home Chicago, hosted by David, Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. on WGN. Homeside Financial is an equal housing lender, NMLS number 1124061. This is live from my office with our number one guest, my friend, Dr. Kevin Most, from CDH at Delnor and Northwestern Medicine. And let me just start by saying thanks for all the work you do.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Now, Emil Esposito told me that you said he was your number one guest.
He may have said that. I may have said that, but we both know the truth. It's you. So,
look, I'm just honored to be a guest.
Well, no, listen, the public appreciates the information you bring up every day. We've got several listener questions we'll get to in a little bit. But what is the deal with the number we're seeing in Illinois popping now? I know it's up around the country in various places, and Michigan in particular is a mess. What do we attribute this to?
Really, it's coming down to the variant and the contagiousness of the variants that we're seeing. So, when you hear about the UK variant B1, what is it, 117, I guess is the number on it. That's more contagious, so it's spreading a little bit easier. And for those that haven't been vaccinated, we're starting to see those numbers creep up. And when you look at the numbers, it's those 18 to 39, that's for the age group where we're seeing the positivity. So it's not getting into the older and more vulnerable population, but it's certainly getting into that young population that's a little bit more socially active, which is almost expected.
Yeah, expected, but not bright. I don't want to be the old guy on the porch with the lemonade, but is this spring break related?
Spring break related, and I think just complacency right now. The weather's changed. More people are getting together. And we've opened up indoor dining now a little bit more. But Mayor Lightfoot, hey, kudos to her. She says, I'm watching these numbers very closely, and I could cut back on that indoor dining. So things that we want to do are so close. So let's just be careful here for these next few weeks, maybe a month at the max. That's
the thing, right? It's almost like the house is on fire. It's not quite out, but let's go back in. I mean, just wait another couple of weeks, 4 weeks on the outside, and we could be good to go.
Yeah, or, you ran the marathon, you ran 26 miles, and then that last 0.8 you decide you're not going to do. It's like, what?
It just doesn't add up. Everybody understands that we all have a lack of patience. We want to do what we want to do when we want to do it. Nobody likes wearing a mask. It's just not that hard to do it. It's not that hard to socially distance. It's going to be curious to see, or I'm going to be curious to see how many people wear masks beyond this once we're good to go. It certainly became part of the Asian culture. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of folks who keep their masks on.
It would not surprise me at all. And from an infectious disease point of view, it's amazing. I mean, adult influenza cases are in the hundreds instead of the millions. We have normally in a normal year, 35,000 deaths due to influenza. We're going to have maybe 100.
That's crazy.
Pediatric hospitalizations for respiratory infections are down 70% nationwide. So we show the importance of washing hands, masking, and physical distancing, not only in COVID, but in influenza and RSV and other childhood illnesses that we haven't seen that impact.
I don't have your tolerance or patience to, be the professional that you are about this. I just, after a year of this, if somebody still thinks this is the flu, I'm talking about COVID now, or that this is hyped beyond control, I don't have the patience to try to convince them otherwise. I feel like there's been tremendous strides made. I feel like people who may have been caught up in the politics and on the fence have maybe seen the light of day when you see 550,000 people dead. Do you have anything to say to folks who still doubt that we're dealing with one of the worst things society's ever seen?
Yeah, I guess I would say a couple things. One, we're taping this on Easter, so if you have the Sunday paper from Easter in the Tribune, please read an article on Chris Ward. Chris Ward, father of three, ran marathons, was a hockey coach, healthy. Read his story and read his plight and what has happened to him since he got COVID in November, how long he was in the hospital and what. Those are individuals that said, wait a sec, a guy ran marathons and this was the impact? Talk to the people that still have no taste of, they've lost their smell and taste. Mm-hmm. Talk to the people who wake up every day with headaches and with brain fog and with fatigue. This is not simple. Certainly there's people that are going to have asymptomatic and not have any repercussions. But boy, if I was in Vegas, I certainly wouldn't be betting on that. There's too many other uncertainties with this illness that have had these long haulers that are really unclear as far as whether you'll ever get back to what you used to think was normal.
And we see folks who go, oh, I didn't believe it, but I do now. You don't have to be one of those people. Just do the simple things. If you're lucky enough, like I have been, to get to this point where you haven't gotten sick, then just do the right thing for another month. Maybe it's longer, maybe it's shorter. We don't know, but just keep doing the right thing. Why be someone that has to go through this hell and then go, wow, I believe now. You don't have to be that.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many people say, I wish I would have taken it more seriously after they had been ill and what's gone on. They are the biggest advocates right now for us, for those with vaccine hesitancy. They say, you don't want to go through what I went through, versus, hey, we should do this to stop the spread. No, now you got this personal touch saying, hey, you know what? How would you like to go 2 months without being able to taste food? How would you like to, wake up every morning and forget what you did the day before? A lot of these symptoms are coming from people that survived the illness, are somewhat healthy. These are not the people that we're concerned about going into the hospital in the ICU and dying. These are the healthy people that survive and now have these lingering side effects and conditions that we don't know when they're going to go away.
Yeah, I want to ask you about vaccine hesitancy, but this long hauler syndrome that you're talking about, we haven't had enough time to really know what the long-term prognosis is on any of it.
Right. And it's interesting, when you look at the general population, the number of long haulers is very spread out and sporadic throughout the community. We're fortunate to be in Chicago here. Northwestern has a long haulers clinic, essentially, that looks at individuals, whether it's cardiac problems, pulmonary problems, neurologic problems. So what they're doing now is they're pooling this group, looking for commonalities, looking for treatment options, versus going to the doctor and saying, I'm a long hauler. And he says, well, I have two in my practice. I'm not sure. One has heart problems, one has lung problems. Northwestern is putting these groups together and forming clinics so that they can test treatment options. So we're fortunate to live in the city where, we have opportunities like that, but we don't know enough and we don't know how long. Some of these may be forever. Some of them may say, oh, here's the medication that's going to bring back that taste or smell. Here's the medication that's going to make those cognitive feelings and fogginess go away. So we're still trying to get our arms around it. We're trying to get our arms around what can we do to prevent that from happening even in the first place.
So is the logical extension to that all of our biochemistries are different in the sum total of our life and environment and genetics? So therefore, there's not one stamp you can put on all of this, and maybe medicines will have to be developed down the road to deal with your pain?
Possibly. Very possibly that. Very possibly it's going to be the burden of virus that you had. Are these individuals that have lost taste and smell? Do they have anatomy that allowed the virus to multiply in the back of their throat more than someone else and, inflaming their olfactory nerve, and now they have this condition? So really, we don't even know. There's so many different variables. Did they have a different strain? Did they have something genetically? Was there a medication they were on that impacted this? So that's what getting all these people together and gathering all this information will allow us to, in the future, be able to say, here's how we can prevent long haulers, or here, if you are in this genetic makeup or take this medication or do this, you are at higher risk for that.
All right, let's do a little vaccine history here. Previously, the FDA and associated agencies would have to approve, the same way they approve any new medicine, would have to approve vaccines. And that process would generally take how long?
Well, the fastest that we ever had one was 4 years, and that was the measles vaccine. Now, that being said, it wasn't a race at that time, and there weren't 200 different companies trying to make the vaccine, and we didn't have the technology that we have now. So it's almost impossible to say how fast can we make a vaccine. Certainly, we put this one into the public with this EUA, which allowed it to get even a larger study than what they did. You have to remember, each of these vaccines that we've been taking had clinical trials, phase 3 clinical trials with about 30,000 people. Well, since then, we've had hundreds of millions that have gotten the vaccine, and that study is continuing. And that's what the EUA allows us to continue to track in those individuals who are receiving the vaccine now. You're given the name, you're giving the phone number in the link to, if you have symptoms, report that. So essentially, the EUA has just allowed this to be a much larger study once they knew it was a safe vaccine.
But we've changed the game, right? Because we know that we've safely developed multiple vaccines that are doing the job and treating, and in some cases, treating this on a level we didn't even know how successful it could be. This changes everything in regards to developing these vaccines down the road, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. If people think that this is going to be the last viral mutant that we see, they're wrong. The world has gotten smaller. The viruses still are out there, and there's more and more of them. So certainly we want to make sure that we have proven that this is the fastest way, the most safe way to do this in the future. And as these viruses mutate and we get these variants, we want to be able to go back to the vaccine companies and say, hey, here's your new variant. Show us how fast you can get the vaccine here for, quote unquote, a booster shot, similar to what we do each year with influenza shots.
There are people who still maintain that they get the flu every year if they get the flu shot. For the 9 millionth time, why is that not true?
Well, it's impossible because, one, you're not getting any live virus. And I think, one good thing that's going to come out of COVID and the side effects of the vaccine is the perception of people right now. Mm-hmm. Think about that. The side effect of the vaccine for COVID, for some people, what do they get? They get a fever. They get muscle aches. They get body aches. That's, to them, influenza. Exact same thing we would happen. But it's gone in 2 days. It's gone in 2.5 days. Influenza, true influenza, you're sick for 10 days. So those individuals now who are thinking, oh my gosh, I stopped getting the flu shot because I got these symptoms, were essentially the side effect of the vaccine showing my immune system is working. So hopefully we're going to get people to understand more and come back to getting the vaccine for influenza that have been hesitant in the past.
So we have vaccines now. We've got Pfizer, we've got Moderna, we've got Johnson & Johnson, we've got AstraZeneca. There could be more on the doorstep. They have all been appropriately vetted in ways that we didn't even know was possible. The data that's collected and continuing to be collected backs up the safety of these vaccines. So what are we seeing in regards to hesitancy? Are those numbers going up, going down, or staying the same?
No, the hesitancy numbers actually are going down, which is great. You listed all the vaccines we have. AstraZeneca, we don't have yet, has gotten a lot of, I would say, bad press, whether it's right or not. It was just stopped again in Germany. So, they are kind of making sure of the age there because of a potential of blood clots, which when they do the numbers, it doesn't come out. But I think there's some confidence issues with the AstraZeneca, where we're still waiting for Novavax, which should have been one of the first ones. But the thing is that within a couple of weeks here, we're going to have enough vaccine to vaccinate everybody. We won't even need the AstraZeneca. And hopefully at that point, President Biden will release that to the rest of the world as we try to, again, decrease the spread of this worldwide, not just nationwide.
That's another piece of the question I have about the hesitancy to get these shots. This is not an American problem. So even if you fall into the political nonsense that goes on in this country about their side's out to get us and this is made up or that's made up or I don't trust the vaccine, the best medical minds around the world agree that this is how we attack this. This is how we win this over. Are we so tunneled in, so siloed in that we can't see that?
I don't know. It's a good question. And I think that maybe we're hearing more of the vaccine hesitancy people because it's a story still. But if that number goes down and we continue to vaccinate, right now, I mean, we put out a vaccine clinic, we fill. We're going to hit a point where we're going to put out a vaccine clinic and we don't fill. So those are going to be the days of, all right, why are you hesitant? What's out there? What is your concern? And really, right now, we're doing it essentially one-on-one with individuals and trying to explain as much as we can. Right now, what are we at about? We'll probably hit 20% right now of vaccinated. Look at Israel, 60% already. And this week, they'll probably creep it up to 75%. Israel's going to hit the herd immunity number very quickly here. And it'll be interesting to see what they do as far as travel and travel restrictions for individuals coming into the country.
What are you hearing when it comes to hesitancy? What are you hearing people's main concerns are? And I'm throwing out they're going to put a chip in my body and know what I'm doing. And none of us are that interesting to be monitored that much, so take a breath. But when people are legitimately concerned or hesitant, legitimately in their own minds, what are they saying?
Yeah, they think it was made too quickly, and they don't understand if there's going to be long-term effects. So that's one. And I would say any individual who is on that campus and in that boat, then make sure that you get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. It uses the adenovirus. It uses the typical way that we have made vaccines in the past. Other people are saying, I heard RNA, and boy, I don't want to get into my genetic makeup, and it's going to change my genes. That's the ignorance of people that don't understand DNA versus RNA. DNA, if I said picture a cell right now, everybody has the same picture, a round circle with a dark circle in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Our DNA sits in that nucleus. That is what replicates. The RNA, the messenger RNA, is in the cytoplasm, the other part of it, nowhere near each other. You say, well, gosh, they look close. That is like from here to Mars as far as distances when you get down to the size of what we're talking about. And RNA and DNA are two totally different things. RNA is just teaching the body, here's what we want you to make. So I'm not sure we're going to get across to everybody, but certainly I would hope that people would look at it and say, gosh, so many millions and millions and millions of people around the world have gotten this with very few bad outcomes. I mean, think about it. We were talking about allergic reactions, when it first came out. I haven't heard a story about allergic reaction yet. We haven't had one bad allergic reaction. And, even at us, we're at 100,000 doses, at CDH. So, right. I mean, it's like it's a non-issue right now.
You're going to be impressed when I tell you that DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid? Huh?
I can't believe that you Googled that quick enough while we were on the phone. That's pretty good.
What's funny is there's things that stick to your brain for no apparent reason, and that always stuck to mine. Must have been one of the days I showed up in science class. So the vaccine hesitancy, you've made this point before, but I think it's important to make again. We all have personal choices to make, but your personal choice comes with a risk to you and the people you're in contact with. And it shouldn't be a singular choice, in my opinion. Is there anything you want to add to that? No, I mean,
this is one where look out for humanity. Look out for what we're doing for our fellow people. And these same people say, wait, I want to go to the Cubs game, and I want to go to a concert, I want to go to dinner. Well, there's some balance there of a sacrifice, if you think of it as a sacrifice, I don't at all, that needs to be made. Look, Cornell in your hometown just announced today, no one's coming back to school unless they've been fully vaccinated. Yep. Again, for the safety of the students, the safety of the community, and to help decrease the spread so that we don't have, like I said, a lot of Chris Wards out there, healthy individuals that needed to share their story of how bad this illness can be. And you would just hope that people would start using common sense and understand why we're doing this for their health, as well as for the health of their friends, family, community, grandparents. That's probably the biggest thing.
Do we know at this point if this will be an annual event for us?
We don't. Actually, very promising information coming out of Pfizer. this is what's happening now. As we vaccinate, we now start to look at, okay, 6 months later, how are we doing? 10 months later, how are we doing? So Pfizer just came out with their 6-month follow-up, and it showed that there's still a 91% effective rate after 6 months. That's great news. I mean, you got to remember that we were willing to take a vaccine with 50% effective rate.
Right.
Pfizer came out at 94. It looks like it only wanes 3% within 6 months. That's spectacular, and with a smaller number. As those numbers get bigger, that 91%, maybe, hey, you know what? You keep your full immunity even after 6 months.
So the vaccines that are available have been hard to get. With the more with the gigantic volume of vaccines we're going to have, everybody's going to eventually be able to get there. But is there something people should do that, some super inside secret you want to share with us on how you get in, or do you just register everywhere?
Yeah, you register everywhere. And again, I read the Tribune this morning, and I think there's some unfortunate distribution issues going on. If you look downstate at Quincy and in Danville, I mean, great communities, but they have so much vaccine that people are driving from the city of Chicago down to Quincy to get their vaccine, which is great for the economy of Quincy, but shouldn't be happening.
No, 5-6 hours away or whatever that is. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we should be redistributing those to areas where we need more vaccine. So when I look at it, and you look at the openings that are going to happen here very soon, I mean, you're talking April 12th or 16th and up in Illinois, May 1st in the city of Chicago. And I mean, the number of states right now that are at full opening, 20 states right now have full opening for 16 and older, with an additional 18. So next week. So 38 states will be vaccinating anyone over the age of 16. That should tell everybody we're going to have plenty of vaccine here very, very soon. So, look around, but I think I think we will be knee deep in vaccine here in a few weeks.
Well, you and I are sports guys. And to me, it comes down to a competition as we go through this, with the states opening, some probably too soon and some too broadly. Does science win, or does selfishness win? Or is it too early to tell that? And by that, I mean the science that's developed so quickly and so well. Is that enough to keep those at bay who were selfish and decided to do what they wanted to do, whether they were governors or spring breakers? Yeah,
the sports analogy is, this is a Kentucky Derby that's coming down to a photo finish, and there's 3 horses running. One is the vaccine, one is the variants, and one is us and how we're acting and behaving. And which one is going to win and be the predominant force going forward? You certainly hope it's the vaccine. The states that are opening up and getting rid of mask mandates and issues like that, I'm still going, boy, a couple months from now, you may be wishing you hadn't done that. But I may be wrong. The vaccine may really hit everybody, and we might get those people off the fence, so that taking the mask a couple of weeks early may not be an issue.
The maybe wrong part is funny to me too, because you've told me this for years, and I get it, and I've tried to spread this message as well. But doctors and nurses and healthcare workers of all kind, their job is to overthink it for you, to try to put you in the best position to be safe and to be healthy. And you're the one profession, Doc, that I'm aware of where you go, look, I hope I'm wrong, but this is what could happen. I don't know another business that does that, and you guys should get credit for that and not ridicule.
Well, not ridiculed and not second guess.
Right.
I mean, if you build a house, are you going to build it yourself? Are you going to do the wiring, the plumbing? No, you're not. And don't go to the neighbor and he says, oh, I know I can do wiring. Are you going to trust that? Or are you going to get an electrician to make sure that the safety of your house is built properly? Same thing with medicine. Let's listen to the experts. Let's follow the science. And let's not look at Facebook posts and say, oh, the vaccine doesn't work because I just read it on Facebook.
That's the thing that's so maddening to me. And I don't even want to go down this road because your head will explode. You know me once I get started. But at what point did your neighbor go from a nice person to a neuroscientist who suddenly knows more than Dr. Fauci and everybody else that has done this every day for their careers. You know, the analogy I always use, Doc, is I don't get on a plane and go tell the pilot, hey, take a few minutes off. I'll take it from here. I mean, come on.
Correct.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and if you don't believe science and you don't believe the data, the amazing thing is that we have shown over the history of medicine, going back to the Jenner with smallpox. Tell me how many people have smallpox. Well, it used to kill millions of people, and we don't have it anymore. We've eradicated it. Tell me how many people you see now walking or in wheelchairs because of polio. I mean, I'm sorry, guys, but we've proven it. The science works. The body is amazing and can fight off infections if we give it the ability to and teach it how to do. So anybody who's saying this is bizarre, I'm not going to get it. All right, you know what? Then how about taking polio, and how about taking smallpox and taking some of these other illnesses that we've essentially eradicated and understand the impact that vaccines actually have in this world.
Yeah, I mean, you don't drink and drive. You don't make a choice to go, I'm going to get drunk and I'm going to drive because that's what I want to do. There's people who are selfish and stupid and make those kind of mistakes every day. But this is an equivalent to me that you can do similar damage by being that careless and that selfish. All right, we got a ton of listener questions from social media, so let me just throw a bunch of these at you if you don't mind. Do we know if you've been fully vaccinated when you are immune, I guess is the word that I'm trying to find here? When would immunity be appropriate after your second shot?
Right. It's after your first shot for Johnson & Johnson.
Right.
We're looking at, for Johnson & Johnson, they're saying 21 days after the first shot. So for Pfizer and Moderna, they're looking at 10 days, 14 days after that second shot. So although you get great immunity after shot one, that booster is the one that takes you from 60, 70% up to 94, 95%. And that's going to be about 14 days post your second shot.
So let me jump to this one. If I have been fully vaccinated and so has a friend or relative, can we be together without masks?
100%. CDC came out with that a couple weeks ago. Right now, fully vaccinated people, you're both totally fine. You don't need the mask. People that are wearing the masks right now after being vaccinated, we are now doing that because we're not 100% sure yet that the vaccinated person can't spread to someone else. But I'm not worried about spreading it to someone who's fully vaccinated because they're at that 95% protection rate. So yes, small groups of individuals who are fully vaccinated, go right ahead. I would say, you know what, distance a little bit, start to think about all the things we've learned. Nothing worse than getting influenza this year when we haven't had any cases at all.
Female, 30 years old. My husband and I are thinking about having our first baby. Is it safe for me to get the vaccine?
Yes. And if you look at the studies right now, they are looking at this very, very closely. But they have, I think it's close to 100,000 now, individuals who are pregnant or became pregnant after getting the vaccine and have had no repercussions and no problems.
This is sort of a collection of questions that I put together into one, and that is if anybody has respiratory issues or any of the primary symptoms of COVID as part of their basic medical biography, are they at risk in any way in regards to getting the vaccine?
No, they're not at risk of getting the vaccine. And in fact, they are the ones that are in risk of being more impacted by COVID. So individuals who have chronic bronchitis because of smoking, have asthma because they just have asthma, they have environmental things that cause them to have respiratory. Those are the individuals we want to get vaccinated quickly to protect them from getting COVID. So certainly we would say vaccinate those individuals to protect themselves.
Another listener says, I am safe and healthy, thank God, and have regularly donated blood, but haven't in a year. Is now the time to do that? 100%.
A lot of blood donations are way down right now, which is unfortunate. And they're way down because it used to be a public gathering, essentially, that did the blood drives. Now there's a lot of hospitals that are focusing on just their employees giving because they can control that environment. But you're going to see more and more opportunities for. And I would say individuals who have been donating blood and haven't in the past, please reach out. We have blood shortages almost constantly right now, just because of that. And we still have all the need for blood. We're still doing surgeries. We still have individuals with car accidents. We still have trauma. So we still have that need for blood. So please consider. And those of you who've had COVID, you know that we will, not only will we take your blood, we will then take the serum out of that, which has those antibodies, and use those to actually treat patients with COVID right now.
Dad writes, are there questions I should ask my school as it reopens before I send my child to that school for in-person learning?
No, you know, I think most of the schools are going to go with as much social distancing or physical distancing as they can, but what safeguards have been put in place? And again, a lot of the schools are looking at protecting the teachers, not really protecting the kids. The parochial schools and the private schools that have really been back in place have not shown these major, massive outbreaks. And again, we're concerned there with the children potentially bringing the illness back to home. Well, if we have adults, parents who have been vaccinated or grandparents who have been vaccinated, that risk or that concern drops down dramatically. People should know that we're looking at doing the studies right now. If you watched the news last week, Pfizer came out and said, you know, they have now done the study for kids 12 to 16 years old, 100% effective, and now are looking at below 12 between the ages of 6 months and 11. Moderna is doing the same. They're doing a trial. They're in 2 trials going on simultaneously, a 12 to 17 years old and a 6 months to 11 years old. So we're going to know more about how we're going to protect kids going into the school year as well, hopefully here within the next few months.
Got several questions about the typical head cold and seasonal allergies, which we're in the middle of now, and I know you deal with this. How do I know I'm not headed for COVID, or am I more susceptible to COVID if I have either?
Yeah, so right now we're not seeing a lot of common colds, believe it or not. I mean, those numbers are down. So anybody who feels like they're getting a common cold, sneezing and coughing a lot right now, it's because pollen numbers are through the roof and are going to continue to go really for the next couple of weeks. Doesn't take just look outside and look at your trees. Every single tree is popping right now. So pollen is really, really high and allergies are very high. Now, you being congested from allergies, does it make you more prone to get COVID? No, not really, but it would allow the virus to settle in there more. So you certainly want to make sure you're distancing, washing hands, and certainly wearing masks, because that's going to be your protection. But I wouldn't be concerned about individuals who have allergies. Treat them like you normally would, but still be cautious. It doesn't make you at a higher risk, but certainly if you got exposed, you have a chance that it could settle in easier just because of the congestion.
I became a Clorox nut. Should I continue to be a Clorox nut as we go forward?
No. We have shown over and over and over again that probably 99% of this illness is spread from person to person. The days of taking Clorox and doing your groceries and your mail, you don't need to do that. Certainly, it shows that we can make an impact on all infectious diseases, as influenza cases and RSV cases are way down. But let's use some common sense here, and soap and water is fine, but to Clorox everything in the house, every day is a little bit overkill.
What about going out to restaurants, those that are open and those that have the limited capacity? Concern of spread there?
Yeah, I would say just look at the distancing and look at who you're with. If you're with people that have been very safe and thoughtful in the past, or have at least gone through the initial vaccination process, you're going to start to see restaurants where their servers are going to be well behaved. They're going to stand back when they take your order. They're going to be masked. These restaurant owners want them to be successful, so they are not going to push the envelope more than they need to. But I would say if you're with a group of people that you know and trust that are common, that are people that would use common sense and have been doing everything properly, I wouldn't be concerned.
Is there anything that's being developed for the summer for kids and pools and things like that in regards to whether or not they would still have masks on? You can't really have a swimming mask, can you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could have a swimming mask, right? You're not breathing underwater. Your mouth is closed. When you come up, you're just going to breathe through it. It'll be interesting to see what they do if they limit the number and then make sure that the people are distanced. Again, by that time, we're talking kids over the age of 16 or could be vaccinated. The only individuals we're looking at are going to be the younger group there. And it'll be, I'm not sure what the schools will do, what the pools will do. But there's no new science of here, use this, and this, and you can protect your kid. It's still going to be the same blocking and tackling, of masking and distancing.
Just a couple more. Anything new you want to say about travel?
Yeah, the CDC is very interesting what they said and probably confusing. Wait a second. CDC comes out on Monday and says, boy, only essential travel should occur because of the spread and the breakup in spring break. And then a couple of days later, they say, hey, those of you who are fully vaccinated, you can travel safely, but wear a mask. So it's one of those, wow, I wish they wouldn't have put those two statements together as quickly as they did. But I still think fully vaccinated, wearing a mask, again, the vaccination is protecting you. You're 95% protected. Wearing the mask is just this possibility of asymptomatic spread, as well as political politeness. In other words, I look at you, you don't have a mask on. I don't know that you've been vaccinated at this point. Mm-hmm. So airlines are really going back to no longer saving that open seat. I think that they're boarding a little bit more differently, but I've traveled quite a bit and have felt very safe on the plane. My bigger concern was in the terminals where people are really bunched together for periods of time. So I would say if you're going to travel, take your opportunity to spread yourself out in the terminal, show up when you're going to board, and then get on. Air circulation on airplanes is great. We haven't seen any outbreaks at all through travelers on airplanes.
Anything about health clubs we need to know that's different?
No, I think health clubs, I think that they have done their distancing and they're cleaning their equipment. Wearing a mask while working out can be difficult, but it's certainly the right thing to do until we get to a point of vaccination. Would not surprise me if health clubs are going to ask for proof of vaccination at some point, which is a really hot political topic right now. But again, you want to make sure that you're keeping your customers in a very safe environment.
One last listener question, and then I want to ask about the vaccine card that we just touched on there for a second. Philip writes, Philip Seberg, should we be happy when or if we've had a significant reaction to a second COVID shot because it shows that we have a good immune system? And conversely, my parents happy they had no reaction. And I think to myself, do they have weak immunity? So explain that to us. If you don't have a reaction, does that mean it didn't turn on?
Not at all. So everyone, this is a very popular question. They have to remember 30,000 people in each of these vaccine trials received the vaccine. When we looked at their side effect profile, we also looked at their immunity. And we showed that even someone who has no symptoms whatsoever, no side effects, was still immune. So it's not based on that at all. Certainly some people's immune system is going to go on hyperspeed. That does not mean the individual that had no symptoms has any weaker. If you're not an immunocompromised person, you can assume that the vaccine is going to give you the same protection that was proven during the trial on 30,000 people and is shown now to really work in millions and millions of people. So don't worry that you didn't have a reaction. Don't worry that you did. The reactions are a little bit uncomfortable, so a little bit of a fever, muscle, body aches. Go ahead and take some Advil. Those should be gone in 2 days.
And lastly, this vaccine passport thing, the card that we get, I've had one shot. My second one is actually coming up in just a few days. The card that we get that says we've been vaccinated twice, that could essentially be turned into what's being called a vaccine passport, which allows you to travel to different countries and travel in general. And it's become a political football, as you mentioned, right away. Is there a reason for it to be a political football, Doc, or is it just part of the new reality of what we need to live with?
I look at it from a public health public health point of view and say, hey, this is reality of what we may need to live with. People are looking at this saying, well, this is a privacy issue. This is a choice issue. Sure, it may be a privacy issue and a choice issue. In order for your kids to go to school, you have to show proof of vaccination. I'm sorry. That's how we are doing this to protect ourselves. I look at it and say, hey, if I'm going to an event or I'm going to go someplace and I want my customers to be as safe as possible, and I can prove to them that anybody in here has been vaccinated, that's great. I think you will see countries in the future that say, we do not want the financial and social impact of this disease to occur again. We're going to make sure we protect everyone in our country by making sure that individuals who are coming in have been protected. Think about that. This started in China and spread throughout the entire world. Do we want something like that to occur again? We don't. So really, what we're trying to do is slow the spread of this and squelch it in its place, and we're going to do that by vaccination. If we need to show proof of it in order for us to get 30,000 people back in Wrigley Field, then that's the way we should be. Do you get a benefit from being vaccinated? You may look at it that way. Do you get penalized for not being vaccinated? You might look at it that way. I look at it going, if we want to put people in an environment where it's going to be crowded again, we need to make sure that it's safe. How do we make sure it's safe? We make sure that people are vaccinated.
Yeah, and to me, the fully vaccinated card that could turn into the passport, it's a point of pride. It's like, look, I'm healthy. I did the right thing. Again, I'll go back to what I said before. Oh, for all of us concerned about our privacy, we're just not that interesting. I hate to break it to you, but just live your life, do the right thing for you, for your family, and for others, and life's going to turn out okay. Doesn't mean there's going to be speed bumps or won't be speed bumps along the way. There will be, but we make this a lot harder than it needs to be. Doc, I kept you way too long, but we really appreciate it as always. Thank you again for the work you're doing at CDH, at Delnor, and for Northwestern Medicine. And please pass that on to everyone else as well. And for those folks who are nice enough to keep asking how I'm doing with my brand new knee, I haven't named it yet, but we're good friends, and I'm getting better every day.
That's awesome.
So thanks for being on, Doc. I appreciate it.
You got it. We'll talk soon.
As always, I want to thank David Hochberg, the title sponsor of Live from My Office. If you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance your existing home, do what we do. Call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Meet Mark, married, 3 kids, loaded with debt, living in a $350,000 home, income $130,000 a year. Mark could never pay off his credit card debt totaling $38,000 and get his credit scores over the 660 he needed. So he called Team Hochberg for a free consultation. Team Hochberg helped Mark pay off his credit card debt and saved him over $900 a month. So let's review. Before calling Team Hochberg, Mark was on the credit card treadmill. After calling Team Hochberg, Mark paid off all his debt with a cash-out refinance and saved over $10,000 a year. Team Hochberg has helped me and my family and thousands of listeners, people who listen to me on the radio all those years and people who listen to me now on the podcast. And hopefully folks just like you, and like Jack, pay off debt, enhance their credit, reduce their monthly payments. But they can't help you if you don't call 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. So you could be like Mark, you could be like Jack, you could be like your name here. 855-563-2843 is 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. And tune into Home Sweet Home Chicago, hosted by David Hochberg, Saturday mornings at 10 on WGN, Homeside Financial and Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 1124061. Welcome back to Live from My Office. Remember, you can email me anytime about anything and maybe end up on this show. Maybe end up winning fabulous prizes like those we provide from our friends at App Electronics, pleasing people since the Middle Ages. Listen, as the start of another baseball season is underway here, I can't help but think about my old friend Ron Santo. I did many appearances with Ron Santo in the Illinois chapter of JDRF. And Ron would kneel down with his old legs and his new legs to the best of his ability so he could look a kid in the eye and say, look, you don't have to end up in the same situation I'm in. Do what the doctors tell you. Make sure you have your numbers current. Keep an eye on yourself. Take care of yourself all day. You're going to be okay. He did more in a short period of time for the Illinois chapter of JDRF and a bunch of kids than we'll ever know. So God bless you, Ronnie. I know you're smiling down on your cubbies from heaven, but thank you for all the good work you did as well. And this is all an encouragement in this charitable mention, which we do with every episode, for you to support JDRF. JDRF Illinois is at jdrf.org. You can search the chapter there or go to jdrfillinois.org and help however you can. It's time, it's money, it's coordinating a walk team, many ways to get involved. And if you have a child with juvenile diabetes, I hope that you have someone in your life who cares as much as Ron Santo did to make the changes that he made and see the success that he saw, all from the millions of dollars he raised year after year after year. He was a good man. Miss you, Ronnie. And thanks to my son, Ross Cochran, who produces the Live from My Office podcast and gets this show on the air, if you will, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We got a big week ahead, so join us again next time. And don't worry about when it hits. Just subscribe, and it'll come to you wherever you're listening to the podcast as well. Email is thecochranshow@gmail.com. All the information you need on every episode is in the show notes. So check those out as well, including how to follow me on social media. Most places at Cochran Show. I'm Steve Cochran. See you next time on Live from My Office.
30 years plus on the airwaves. You have turned your dial to me. Now you're tuned into my podcast. It's Live from My Office, Steve. From Ithaca, New York to Carolina South, W. Cochran Steve. From Minneapolis and then Chicago twice, top-rated shows achieved. Sit back, relax, and now listen to my show. When or wherever you are, 'cause you're on the go. A-list celebs with some laughs and great info. Live from my office, the Steve Cochran Podcast Show. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No better place to be. Yeah, 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 yeah. Subscribe and like for free. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Live from my office, Steve. So glad you're with me. It's Live from my office, Steve.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Support the show by subscribing wherever you're listening and by telling your friends about it. Follow Steve on all social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And make sure you check out this episode's show notes for relevant information discussed during the conversations. You can also email the show directly at thecochranshow@gmail.com with any questions or comments. And that's the best place to tell us about your favorite nonprofit so we can make sure we mention them on the next episode. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event. And occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.